So I'm Phoebe of Phoebe's Pure Food. I'm so excited to be here at Wigle. And we just did a tour with Meredith, and she is the owner of Wigle. And you gave us a little bit of history. You should watch the other video to find that out, and the process of the distilling. But I'm very curious. Your background isn't in distilling.
No.
What's your background in?
So this is a family business, so I'm one of a whole group that's doing this distillery. But my background is pretty varied. I worked in community development. I went to cooking school in Paris, and I worked in packaged food as well at Heinz. So I have a pretty diverse background. Yeah.
So it's a family-run business.
Yeah.
You're one of the pieces.
Yeah.
And do you do like a lot of the development with the product itself, or do you do like the marketing or the promotion of the product?
All of those things. And I also clean the bathroom.
You do?
So I do new product development, which is what I love doing, probably more than anything else. And also education programming, marketing, and other promotions, partnerships.
How do you think your background in travel, especially overseas, and then the cooking, and your culinary background, how do you think that plays into the distilling?
So I think the cooking education definitely helps with new product development. We talk a lot about flavors here and complementary flavors. And for instance, when we were building our gin, it's a pretty layered gin. It's pretty complicated, this gin. It's not as spare as a British style gin is. It's what's called a Dutch style gin or a Jenever. And so that means it has a whiskey base to it rather than a British style vodka based gin. So you're working with a lot of flavors to start with, and then you're trying to complement the whiskey with the botanicals. Where in a British style gin, you're starting with a blank slate on vodka and then adding a pretty standard set of botanicals. And we wanted to really sort of broaden that palette. So
I saw that on your label, and I had no idea what it was, and it kind of confused me. And I googled it, and I didn't find any answers. So that's really interesting that that's what that means in terms of the product, and that's what makes you very different than what you can buy on the shelves at the state store.
Exactly. Yeah, this is one of the few Dutch style gins made in America. Yeah. So in a product like that, you're thinking a lot through layers of flavor, and so that's no different than when you're making dinner at home, right? It's the same kind of consideration.
So that makes it very fun for cocktails.
Yeah.
And do you ever bake with gin?
Yeah.
I've never baked with gin, but
so one of our staff, Lauren, who I introduced you to, she is a big time baker. So every week she makes different cupcakes with all of our products. Yeah. So she's made some pretty awesome gin cupcakes.
Okay, that's a good idea. That should be on a to-do list.
Yeah.
She'll probably find like another path.
Yeah.
She'll probably find and she'll become this.
No, she's going to be a baker. I think she's going to be a baker ultimately. Yeah.
It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, the science behind distilling, and it really favors people who get into the chemistry of baking and.
So how long has the business been around? Because this is like relatively, it's not new, but it's relatively new.
Yeah, we are. So we opened up 2 years ago. Okay. It took 2 years before that to get legal. So we worked for a couple of years to change a lot to be able to do this model, which is, a distillery in the middle of a city where people can come, see how everything's made, sample it, buy it on site. So that's, this is the first kind of this thing in Pennsylvania since Prohibition.
Okay.
So the past 2 years we've been up and running, and this region and the state have been really supportive of this model. And so we're growing to a second location now in another Pittsburgh neighborhood, and we're sending our first bottles to the state store now next week.
So I was going to ask, because I know that there are people back in the Berks and Lancaster County areas that have heard of you, and they keep asking, like, how do I get my hands on it? You can't ship yet.
We can.
You can ship.
As
within the
of
state.
Yesterday.
Oh my gosh, that's like cause for a huge celebration, right?
So we've got a lot of new sort of avenues right now. We just, the past couple of years, we've been working to try to get this consumer shipment, direct-to-consumer shipment in Pennsylvania, and that came through yesterday. We just got the letter from the state.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It really is.
And so we'll be doing a we'll be running a program that we're calling community-supported alcohol, like community-supported
that.
agriculture, where people can buy shares of what we produce over the year, and we'll ship them the bottles.
Okay. So in addition to the gin, we just did a tour and you showed us how the whiskey is produced. You also do rum.
We do. It's actually, by federal definition, not a rum. We can't call it a rum.
Okay.
So
But it's kind of like a rum style, and it's honey based.
It is.
Okay.
So we wanted to make a Western Pennsylvania version of rum. And of course, sugar cane is not a very Pennsylvania product. So instead of sugar cane, we used local buckwheat honey. So we took buckwheat honey, which is this very funky honey. It's this fall dark honey that's it's a lot figgy and a little bit woodsy. It's really interesting stuff. And we fermented it into mead, and then we distilled it into what we call landlocked, which is our Pennsylvania version of rum. But again, by federal definition, it's not a really rum because it's not sugar cane.
Oh, okay. Is there a word then for what you're
there's
doing?
No federal category for distilled honey.
Huh.
Yeah. So now there's a couple other distilleries besides us that do a distilled honey. So at some point maybe it will become a category. But right now the federal categories are fairly limited in terms of...
You're like really breaking a lot of ground though. First of all, then to do the distilled honey, and then to be a part of the CSA, the new CSA.
Yeah.
I love that, the community supported alcohol. That's really great. So at the new location, you'll be able to find shopping, tasting. Will there be tours, or is it mostly
tours?
Tasting in the garden, or?
So the new space is a barrel house, which is a former produce terminal that we've converted into a Wigle-like space where we'll store all of these guys. And then we bought 2 vacant lots next to it, which we're turning into a whiskey garden. So there'll be an outdoor tasting area and place for community events and performances. And then we are also doing tours of the space where we talk through the science of aging and the whiskey history in this region from after the Whiskey Rebellion to Prohibition.
So I think when people come out to Pittsburgh, the best thing to do is to go online, right?
Absolutely.
Is to go online to the website, and is it just Wigle?
WigleWhiskey.com.
And then you can see the list of events.
You got it.
And you should buy your tickets, and you should not wait. Like, you should buy your tickets weeks in advance because they seem to sell out.
They do. They tend to book up a couple weeks ahead of time.
Yeah. So, and then you said the state stores might be carrying them.
They'll start. We're shipping them our first pallet on Wednesday next week.
Are they going into a big city like Philadelphia, or?
They're starting out in our western region here and in central Pennsylvania. So Harrisburg area. And then if we do well, 6 months to prove our worth. If we do well, then we'll hopefully be in Philadelphia.
Okay, great. Okay, so we can go online and find it.
Once we're in the system, you can actually go to your state store, whatever your state store is, and ask them to bring it in.
Yes. Okay, and I think that our local store does that.
Yeah.
So we can do that too. So I think, does that cover everything?
That's great.
I think people should come in and do a tour.
Yeah.
It's so exciting, I think. And I think we'll have to come back and do another tour where there's some more tasting. But thank you so much for having us. It was a lot of fun. And go on the website, Wigle Whiskey, and check out the tour dates and order your bottle of whiskey. Thanks.